Hey fellas, given how nothing this year has gone like I expected, it's time to once again say, and now for something completely different. Thomas the Tank Engine. Now there's a fandom, something that might surprise some of you. Even as more of the stories about this character are more than screen page delayed Johnny on the heart for decades, even outlasted several storytellers. This movie, however, not so much. Yes, folks, 20 years later, Thomas Magic Railroad is infamous for several reasons. Even though the time was roundly panned by critics, audiences, and fans alike, a cost reported $19 million to make and grossed just $15 million back. My brother's right age for it, but I was on the cusp, being one to show your blockbusters as X-Men, Pokemon Movie 2000, and Mission Impossible 2. As such, when I finally saw all this while babysitting someone a while back, I didn't know what to expect. I guess cohesion? Regrettably, we don't really get that either, so let's open this up and find out why. In this film is directed by Brett Elcroft and Peter Moore, David Mitton returning with big names such as late Peter Fonda, then current era Alec Baldwin and Mara Wilson in her final role as a child actress, sharing top billing with Thomas. The story is not great. There are many reasons why, not the least of which being that nearly 60 minutes were cut from the film. One proof? The conductor mentions that Alice Sorter is at the end of his special universe. That's odd. When I was small, I was under the impression this was an island off the coast of England. Now this movie is suggesting that it's in a parallel universe? That plot thread only gets weird from here, and this movie is allegedly meant for people in pre-K. Anyway, there's some banter between Thomas and Gordon, expositing the conductor's feeling while sort of talking about has on holiday. I guess even he didn't want to be in this movie. Barely 3 minutes in, we're introduced to our villain Diesel 10. Why, you may ask, is random Diesel the antagonist? Well, it turns out he wasn't at first. The original villain was someone named P.T. Boomer, whose removal makes the plot very strange, I'm about to explain. Elsewhere, across oceans of time beneath Muffle Mountain, the movie's words, not mine, is the film's Earthbound setting of Shining Time. I shall address the elephant in the room before I go further. The film is also an adaptation of Shining Time Station, which was a framing device received when it first came to the US. This isn't the only reason this movie is so infamous, but it's on the list. This borderline elevator music isn't helping either. Is this the movie in allergy medicine? The conductor also narrates the audience going to help Thomas. That's odd. Did I put on Rocky Horror by mistake? We're going to hear about a light at the Frankenstein place next. Also note the Illingen is actually voiced by a lot of alumni from the Sailor Moon dub in this movie, notably Serena herself, Linda Ballantine voicing Percy. James is also voiced by Jupiter's actress Susan Roman. Thomas and Sousa is voiced by Eddie Glenn, who's also had parts in Beyblade, the Pat Labor franchise, and Yugo in the Battle Angel OVA. That's coming, don't worry. As for Diesel 10's comment he'll dominate the steam engines, this movie's rated G Diesel. Hey, be careful to keep things Cobra compliant. James asking about the lost engine is well warranted. I'm sure lots of people are asking that same question. Back in Shining Time, a young man named Patch, played by Cody McMains, is painting a sign while talking to his dog. Nothing weird about that. And Patch is then greeted by Billy Two Feathers, played by the late Russell Means. Apparently, the map belongs to Billy, and Patch has been doing odds with Burnett Stone, played by the late Peter Fonda, who's fallen into a deep depression in his old age. For the record, I will state that while this isn't his best role, that Fonda was a fantastic actor and wonderful man, which dedicated to his craft in this film, warts and all. Apparently, this engine had a name called Lady had a connection to P.T. Boomer, who, as mentioned before, was the original antagonist played by the late Doug Lennox, who was cut from the final film to poor test screenings. This has the unfortunate effect of making Stone's portrayal, dedicated as it is, not really make sense in the final cut. Back in Soda, we introduced Diesel 10's underling splatter and dodge. Basically, this movie is Broken Skull or Scratch and Grounder. Still after Lady, he named his claw Pinchy. Ah yes, the great pantheon of weapon names. Charlene, Vera, Pinchy. Also introduces Stacey Jones, played by Dee Kong, reprising her role from the TV series. She's talking to the conductor and taking it shockingly well, and Baldwin's portrayal is quite cheery. He's even talking in the fish. After greeting Stacy and the dog named Mutt, he heads back to Soder and is having trouble with his Sparkle. That's actually a plot point and only gets more absurd from here. We then introduce Mar Wilson's character, Lily, who is Stone's granddaughter. Another story says she might make him happy again, but I get this feeling that, like the rest of the cast, she really doesn't want to be there. I also wonder about this model of bird she has with her. Is it like her totem or companion cube in this movie? Back in Sodor, apparently they're quipping about size between his position as Lady and Harold comes shopping in. The conductor is wanted on the telephone as is greeted by a poster of Hat doing his best impression of Uncle Sam. I don't know. Maybe it's Lord Kitchener if it's England. Anyway, Hat gives the conductor an earful on the phone. They needed more exposition. I know it's Thomas, but wow. That night, the conductor starts talking to a ball on bat before he gets some hot cocoa. Is this a family film, or did they just leave the camera on Alec Baldwin slowly going mad? Before we can answer that, Diesel 10 starts wrecking up the sheds. Conductor's sponsor threatened to toss sugar in his fuel tank because he's diesel fueled. Ha, ha, ha. And I thought my jokes were bad. Also, what is Thomas' character in this movie? Are we going by the canon of the original books where he's cheeky, or by the TV series where he's more naive and heroic? Each scene seems to bounce between the two, it's weird. Anyway, conductor starts rambling about gold dust, leading to a nightmare where Shining Time has become desolate and abandoned. I guess the decimation hit this movie especially hard. Say hi to Scott Lang for me, Stacy. All joking aside, the conductor rationalizes that he needs to find more gold dust, while Mutt leads Lily to Shining Time. How convenient. After more easy listening music, we see James the conductor brushing out back in Shining Time. The conductor then has to find a windmill, and the movie just keeps getting stranger. Want proof? Just as the conductor runs out of gold dust, he finds a note from the rabbit who has gone fishing. He then starts eating the rabbit's vegetables, and thinks the clue will be at the beach. He somehow makes a call on a bellflower because I guess not everyone in sort of have mobiles yet, reaching the cell phone of his cousin Conductor Jr., played by Michael E. Rogers. He's mostly done TV work since this movie, but has also contributed to some video games such as Final Fantasy XII and The Matrix Path of Neo. For sake of argument, I will call him CJ for short from here on. Conductor is able to get a hold of CJ just in time, but as Lily reaches Shining Time. CJ also meets Lily, who is taking this quite well. Conductor has no nightmare about Shining Time and can't face Thomas for reasons the film doesn't explain. Stacy escorts Lily to Stone and Maple Mountain. We get more exposition about Tasha, who is her late grandmother. How much of this was added after test screenings? It's not the most exposition I've sifted through since Artemis Fowl happened, but all this talk about the Lost Railroad is really heavy. Toby is able to scope out Diesel 10's hideout, but also distract him so the roof comes crashing down him and his henchmen. Okay, that's actually kind of funny. The search continues on the next day with another song and some special buffers being the next part of all the strangeness. Conductor's walking on the bridge where he's captured by Diesel as more exposition is dropped. As for this bit of him grabbing the scissors, how did that just get past with the G rating? For that matter, how does this cutting one cable slingshot him into the woman like he's Wile E. Coyote? Third, why is he asking the audience about the sandbags like it's family-friendly Rocky Horror? It really says something when the riddle is the least absurd thing in the scene. Said riddle is as follows. Stoke up the magic in the mountain, and the lady will smile, then watch the swirls that spin so well. Personally, I've seen puzzles in my old PC games make more sense than this. Diesel 10 also doesn't help as a villain when he pulls down a hopper of coal on himself, saying it's going to ruin his facial. That is also kind of amusing. Back on Muffle Mountain, Lily and Patch bond, and Stone is oddly fine with this. I know he's no recluse, but even I get wary about someone riding out for my loved ones on a white Bronco. As Stone looks over Lady, Lily meets with CJ again, who's finally able to supply gold dust, somehow taking Lily back to Soda via some bad chroma key effects. Not model work in this movie gets a lot of heat with a static face and all, but it's astonishing how this came out the same summer got a convincing Wolverine on film. CJ apparently played a prank on Thomas, but is receptive to Lily since she knows Stone. Okay. Hey, Also, don't know how Hack got the number of the Bluebell phone in the windmill, and I did just say that sentence. CJ then slingshots off the windmill into Diesel 10's grab. Yes. All you had to do was follow the train, CJ! Sorry, I couldn't resist. Thomas remarks that Diesel's hijacked him. I guess he also has a police strike cheat turned on that normally be at least a 2-star wanted meter. After that, it's determined that Lily, Lady, and Stone are the keys to Magic Railroad. Rating and acting aside, it's nice to see the movie is basically resigned to the old standby of, it's magic, we don't have to explain it. Thomas escorts Lily back home, and she figures out part of the riddle. On top of this, also talking tumbleweed. Am I going mad, or am I just wishing that Sam Elliott was talking about the dude? Lily goes back to see Stone, and Thomas somehow rolls down the mountain without tracks. While the original books tend to be more realistic than the depiction of railways, the stories unique to the adaptation tend to take more creative liberties. This says something about the coal truck they need, and the portal are the least absurd thing about the sequence. These lieutenants all somehow capture James and launch a CG onto him, threatening to scrap them both. How did this get past with the G rating? It's the last thing Emoji Gold does, they're able to escape just in time, so it's finally able to get Lady to work. I'd ask more questions, but the movie is almost over, so I'll manage. The Lady's model isn't too bad, statistics aside, the Chroma Key Flex N64 game. I've expected to see Mario grappling with Pikachu, Link, and Samus Aran. Thomas is glad to see everyone, Stone's able to meet Conductor and CJ, who is oddly inspired by Lady. Now the gold dust must be found, and Diesel 10 must be stopped. Also, Conductor solves the riddle, but I wonder if Baldwin realized what he signed up for and it made a final cut. On that note, when Diesel says he's going to get Lady, Stone replies, and this is his delivery, not mine, no you won't, because the magic you refuse to believe in will get the better of you. Acting! Brilliant! No disrespect intended. Long story short, Lady and Thomas are able to cross the bridge because of their smaller size, and Diesel 10 falls down the river, underpassing bridge and viaduct falls out from under him. Lady helping restore the gold dust sparkle to the land. Clothes and Stone bonding with Lily, Thomas riding the wheels, and the son is conductor near it's time to go home. You and me both, Alec. As previously stated, while Thomas continues in both books and on TV, the movie wasn't a success at all. It was roundly panned, garnering a 21% RT rating, a 19 score on Metacritic, and a 4.1 out of 10 IMDb rating. Probably the other movies I mentioned already. This one opened at number 9, and become just one Perfect Storm, The Patriot, The First Scary Movie, Disease the Kid, What Lies Beneath, and The Protector 2, The Clumps. A planned reboot in 2012 never materialized, most likely has been shelved. Film Factor the end of the Shining Time stage section of the series. On its own merit, it's a bit of a mess in terms of story and character. It's an adaptation of source material, even more so. Even as someone who wasn't in the direct target audience then or now, even I admit, can do better for both the series and fandoms overall. I'm still surprised how the show decided against adapting the missing coach, yet this somehow got to theaters when its plot and production barely work on TV. I would go on, but I cut enough already. My Friday rating is half star out of 4. It's time for me to leave. I've seen everything. I'll be back another time. Later.